On 5, 4, 3, 2. Krista Raymer from C3 Industries. We haven't done this in a while. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I feel like I'm talking to you in your childhood bedroom.
It's not my bedroom, but it is my childhood home. It is not my record collection. It's my sister-in-law's. But yeah, it's I'm on summer. It's Summer J now.
I like Summer J. What else have you been up to?
I've been up to lots of driving from Toronto, upstate New York, Massachusetts, was just down in Florida, spent some time in New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, like a lot of back and forth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is something I wanted to talk to you about because within that, I tried to buy cannabis, obviously, and we were staying in Hoosick Falls, New York, which is actually where the killer brand Jaunty is located. That's where we were staying. We were going to see theater, sounds highfalutin, in Williamstown, Massachusetts. And to do that, you have to go through Vermont. Okay. So I was looking for cannabis to buy and went to a dispensary that I want to give a shout out to called Rambler in what's the name of the town? Did I lose you?
Jay, it's your internet.
I know I'm usually yelling at you, but it is my internet. Okay, so sorry about that. I'm not in my studio. So Summer, I needed to go buy cannabis. Went to buy it in Vermont. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So I went to buy it in Vermont and into Pownell, Vermont, Pownal, a great dispensary called Rambler. In the front 3/4 of the building is a motorcycle repair shop, and it says Royal Enfield, which caught my attention. Royal Enfields are really cool motorcycles. In the back is a tiny little dispensary, and I think the same guy does both. Like he's a motorcycle repair guy and a dispensary owner operator. And Vermont, I think, is one of the cooler markets where you walk in. There's no like breezeway where they need to like check your ID, like you feel like you're doing something wrong. You walk right in. And I think another regulation is all the product needs to be on the floor during the day. And so everything's there. And everything is also local because there's actually no big companies, I don't think, in Vermont operating. So like it's all local product. It's all very Vermont. They also they can't use any plastic in their packaging. So the gummies I bought are in like a really fancy, beautiful, reusable tin. The flour's all in glass containers and everything else is in. It's great. Like I'm not sure it's sustainable outside of Vermont, like in terms of an operation, but in Vermont, it seems to be working. That said, great shout out, great dispensary. I would even go way out of my way to go there again because it is such a unique shopping experience. Here's the lead in to you. I'm like a summer shopper at this dispensary. They may never see me again. How unusual is that?
It's not unusual at all, actually. The summer, we see really different customer behavior. And also, if you were to segment the year, you would see different things in terms of new customer acquisition and then retention of those new customers. And so, yeah, customers, especially in states or in places where we get snow over the winter, experience a really different behavior because people are out doing things with their families or are enjoying a summer vacation and going somewhere that they typically wouldn't do. So they break their typical behavior, which also influences potentially what stores they go to. So like your customer that, for example, in this exact example with Rambler, you're like never going to be seen probably again at that location, and that's okay. So it's how do we optimize you while you're in store? Then the other type of behavior is that like a customer is going to a different grocery store to grab something or a new restaurant and maybe drops by a different location than their typical purchasing behavior. And so there is an opportunity to disrupt kind of like maybe the way that the customer usually purchases and convert them into like a longer term customer. So I think if you were to take a look at the data, if you look at the data from the States, it's really interesting because we basically see consumer behavior shift kind of like 3 separate times over the year. So January to end of April is like one type of behavior. We see different types of products being purchased. We see different types of new customer acquisition as well as retention. Then when you get into May to September, we see a lot more new customers, a lot less retention of those new customers, and also different types of products being sold over that time horizon. And then you get into kind of like September to Christmas, end of the year, beginning of January, and we see a lot of different types of customer behavior happen in that like third period. Both from kind of like around Black Friday all the way up until New Year's. Customers are purchasing just different products, and there's different like new customer acquisition rates. But before that, there's like this kind of lull that happens, which is like September and October. So the third period is really complicated. The summer period has like consumers doing totally different things than what they typically do. And then January is like what traditional retail would always be afraid of, because there is this lull after the holidays, which we see as well. So I think in thinking about new customer acquisition and customer behavior, it's helpful to think about it as like 3 different distinct periods. And the quarters don't really do it justice.
Right. Because they break up in weird ways.
They break up in weird ways. And like June and July, we both have customers like going and traveling and doing different things.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's just really hard to break it up totally into quarters, but there is something interesting when we look at it from a trimester perspective. There also is, like, if you layered on top of that, this weird pattern around what happens in these markets from outdoor hitting the market, as well as grow cycles, it does kind of line up to some of this as well.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, because you're in Michigan, I was thinking of that Kid Rock song, like, we were smoking funny things. It was summertime in northern Michigan. I'm throwing you lyrics from like very, very long time ago, but it is that sense that, like, especially, places like Michigan, that huge influx of people around summer, where I was in Vermont and New England, like big influx around the summer months as well, and people just driving through. It does become a sort of unique shopping experience. And especially as new markets come online in regions where they hadn't been online before, where there's way more dispensaries in that part of New York now than there were a year ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to extrapolate those summer months. It's a good way to capitalize on that type of behavior, but they may not be repeat customers till 12 months from now.
Yeah. And also, I mean, if you're 1 year into your own data set, like, you're not going to see these larger trends yet, because you're still ramping. And so you still just have so many new customers. You need like 2 or 3 years under your belt before you start to see kind of like the seasonal behavior, because then you can fix for the fact that we're still not ramping.
Yeah. Can I ask you a more challenging question, because this is your role? Think about those trimesters, if you will, like January, April, summer months, and then sort of the third period, to use a hockey term. Like, how do you prepare staff and staffing levels for those big swings? Like,
yeah. Well, that's a technical question.
Think about, you've just had a big summer. Now it's, there's going to be a lull till before Thanksgiving. Like, how do you think about that from a staffing perspective or training perspective, or sort of any sort of operational perspective?
Yeah, when we are thinking about staffing levels, we need to not only think about revenue, but we also need to think about transaction count.
Yeah.
Because sometimes transactions, we might have a lot of little transactions that aren't generating maybe as much revenue as larger basket sizes, but actually it takes kind of like more interaction between the teams in store. And so we got to get into a situation where we're looking at a forecast of what we're expecting from a revenue, and also what mix of number of transactions we expect to be able to do that. We often will take a look at things like sales per hour, as well as scheduled hours versus number of transactions, and start to dial in our plans for what amount of hours we're going to allocate within the environment or within the store to be able to best service the customer accordingly. Yeah. But yeah, it's a miss if you don't think about transaction count as well as revenue when thinking about staffing levels, because a lot of little transactions, you need the team to be able to support that, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's like high revenue numbers associated with that.
Can I transition you to a conversation about something that I've been thinking about, unrelated to cannabis, but I think related to retail overall?
Are we going to talk about play it against sports again?
No. So
okay.
No. But my other favorite topic is Marshalls. So I happen to be in Natick, Massachusetts. That's my hometown. It's the hometown of TJX, which is Marshalls, Winners, HomeSense, Sierra, maybe a couple others. And I was with my mom. She doesn't like waiting in line, period. She doesn't. But I said to her, yes, but places like Marshalls, where they have a long checkout aisle that they want you in.
Yeah.
I said this to her. I said, I'll ask Krista when I see her. I think, is there an optimal number of people they want in line? Like, is there a a time they want people in line before they open another register. So like people don't get upset, but also people sit and buy. Oh,
yeah, I heard. Okay. So I don't know, but I'm sure the answer is yes. There is research around how long people are willing to stand in line at a grocery store, and I think Marshalls is probably put, and like Sephora is probably like the leader to being kind of like who did it maybe first or did it from an entertainment perspective. It's like shopping entertainment that happens in line, and it is to make you feel better about the wait. So the average customer, this was like, I'll have to find the research for you, but like the average customer who goes into a grocery store thinks that they spend 45 minutes in the grocery store, but I think it's actually closer to between 20 and 30. And they think that they spend 15 minutes or something outrageous like that in line, but it's actually closer to like maybe 5 minutes. And the checkout process actually takes less than 2 minutes. And so basically your perception as a customer is completely lost, like
divorced from reality,
disentangled from reality when you are waiting to be able to be checked out. And the worst thing I think that puts a lot of pressure on that environment is watching people get rung through, because you just have lost sight of how much time it actually is taken. So that's one of the reasons why we have impulse there. Obviously, there's also margin opportunity, extra sales opportunity with that line, but a little bit it also is about creating like entertainment or distraction away from how long it's going to take to be checked in, or like checked out, I guess, through the register.
It's interesting because there's, in my sense, the only dispensary I've been to where that is the case, I think it was in Las Vegas. I don't even remember which one that had, the vanity packaging along the wall where you're waiting, so you could actually see the packaging you would eventually get if you bought the stuff. It's interesting. Oh, so we got to have a note from David Brandes. I don't think I know David, but this is a thought. King of Buds in New Buffalo, which by the way is like the cannabis capital of the world, I guess. New Buffalo, like one of the ones. Long line, able to view all the products being sold in maybe 20-minute line, but great dispensary. Like I think.
Planet 13 in Vegas, I mean, is also trying to do something similar in terms of that there is entertainment in the environment. I've actually been into that New Buffalo location, and there is a lot going on there as a way to also distract some of the customer from potentially how long it's going to take. I don't know if it's always in cannabis environments. I'm not sure if it is like as conscious of knowing that all of this research exists.
It's like we have people waiting. We can't check them out fast enough. Let's give them something to do, whatever that means.
If you're interested, there is a research group who has done it. They specialize in grocery store consumer behavior, and they're the ones who have done the research both in the US as well as in Europe, in understanding dwell times within a grocery store.
We'll come back to that and maybe post some interesting about that, which is funny because I think at the beginning when I was describing Rambler, it wasn't because there was a line. It was just a nice, cozy environment. Like it all is similar. Some of it is by design, Marshalls or Sephora. Some of it is just because it seems like a good thing to do, and it's sort of somewhere in between that. We maybe some dispensaries can be more thoughtful about how they do that sort of last minute of the shop.
Once you get into traditional retail, a convenience store like 7-Eleven is really particular about how they are setting up a store, what goes where, why it goes there, where there are end caps, what the flow within the store is going to be, as well as like optimized retailers like Apple, who's really particular even about the table height. So I think it's all learnings that can be applied within these environments. Just maybe historically haven't been touched yet, but we're getting there.
Another one you just mentioned, table height, and then we'll let everybody go. But the H&M tables have like low tables with socks. Like that's their, and maybe some like, I want to say like teddy bears, like stuffies.
Like soft goods. They
soft goods. See, I knew there was a word for it. There's a word for it. I'm now going to be thinking about these sort of 3 periods of shoppers in cannabis. Maybe we'll dwell on it a bit more, but a super interesting conversation, Krista. As always, I want to appreciate thank you, and I appreciate you for your time today. And we'll connect with you later. Enjoy the rest of summer.
Thank you. You too. We'll chat
All right.
soon.
Bye, Krista.
Bye,
Thank
Jen.
you. Yeah, that was great.